Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another 3-0 Transformers Bumblebee DLX scale unboxing and review video. Yes, today we are going to be taking a look at none other than the super limited edition Shattered Glass Optimus Prime. It did go up for sale with Sideshow. Unfortunately, it sold out incredibly quickly. I did miss out on the G1 coloration of Blitzwing, but I did manage to get my hands on this guy right here. Yes, this happens to be the third version of the Transformers Bumblebee Optimus Prime that I've actually picked up and reviewed on the channel. Therefore, this video is going to be a little bit of a quicker paced review. We don't have to go over this guy in as much detail as the previous versions. It's more to see the changes since, of course, those original editions, and to see if there have been any newly molded and sculpted pieces, because I'm quite excited to see they've made significant changes here. Now, of course, I picked up mine, as I said, from Sideshow. They are now since sold out, so unfortunately you won't be able to pick up your very own unless there's a second edition or they go up for sale on eBay, but you might be paying a little bit more, I should say a lot more than retail, if you decide to go that route. Now, if you do like seeing really early Hot Toys, third party, and of course 3-0 content, why not hit that subscribe and bell notification icon so you're notified as soon as brand new content goes live on the channel. Also, why not hit that join button and check out more about Justin's Collection Plus to get early access to some videos as well as a 5% off code for toyswonderland.com. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. And here of course we have the box art for Shattered Glass Optimus Prime. Now, I don't know a hell of a lot about the Shattered Glass universe, but as far as I can tell and what I've seen online, it's an Elseworlds version of the Transformers story, where the Autobots are evil and the Decepticons are good. Therefore, this is another evil version of Optimus Prime, except this time in a really awesome purple color scheme, and of course, the box matches very nicely. I love this box art. It's got this sort of retro grid in the background, a bust of Optimus Prime on the front, and in a really nice purple aesthetic. It also has this sort of holographic lenticular effect to it. It looks beautiful. I love the way they've done it. Autobot logo on the side, again nice and metallic. Same thing for the back. 3-0 have nailed it so far with the DLX scale line. I do hope that they continue with the Bumblebee movie figures. I know they're doing a DLX scale Last Night version of Bumblebee, but I don't think that's anyone's favorite version of the character. I'm really hoping to see a Shockwave and potentially a Starscream remold of Blitzwing, because of course we are getting that from Hasbro themselves with the Transformers Studio Series line. Now, of course, here we have Optimus Prime. It should be a very familiar sight. We unfortunately do have a few pieces that have gone rogue in the box there, but here we have the Optimus Prime in his purple glory. And I have to say, first impressions, this guy just pops. I don't know what it is about that purple, but it is just working for me. It looks really darn good. What we are going to do now, though, is get all of the accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. And here we of course have all of the accessories that come with Shattered Glass Optimus Prime. If you've seen the previous two Optimus Prime videos, this will look eerily familiar, and it should. They are identical all the way down to the display base itself. You can see a 3-0 logo and Transformers Bumblebee on the front there in a nice deep purple. It is a little bit too dark. I would have liked it to be a little bit more punchy, a little bit more vibrant, but nevertheless it is printed on top there. The display base is, in my opinion, too large. It's absolutely enormous. The sculpting looks really good and it is nice and thin, but it's slightly too big, and that's of course to accommodate this huge display base arm. You can of course move it up and down and lock it in place so you can have him in the air, but in my opinion a nice Cybertronian style flooring would have been perfectly fine for me. I don't need my super heavy die-cast figures posed in the air. Now let's take a look at his ion cannon or ion blaster It looks beautiful. I love the way it's painted, just like I have previously. It's got this sort of metallic finish and this brushed effect over the top to make it look like it's slightly aged, slightly damaged, and there are a bunch of washes in the crevices. You can remove the magazines, just like the other two different versions, and plug it back in. It's a really nice tight fit. You don't really have to worry about that falling out when you have him in a crazy pose. Now, the only other stuff that he comes with are, of course, a bunch of hands. They are exactly the same sculpt, but where they do differ is in the paint application. This blue is slightly flatter, and what I mean by that is it's not as vibrant. It's more of a subdued blue, but it is a little bit deeper, and it's got this sort of shimmery effect to it. I really like the way it looks. It's scuffed all around the edges, and you'll see that on the figure himself, but this just, it comes across like almost a blue chrome, and it works perfectly, in my opinion, for Shattered Glass Optimus Prime. I love the way they've painted the blue on this entire figure. What we are going to do now, though, is get the figure himself out here and take a closer look. And here we have him standing straight up and down the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And I have to say, this guy looks absolutely gorgeous, and I know I've already said that a couple of times, and I'll probably say it a few more throughout the course of this video, but 3-0 have nailed it here. I love the concept of Shattered Glass Optimus Prime, and I'm sure you already know, I love this design for Prime. It's my all-time favorite, and I know it's sacrilege to say G1 is the king, and yes, I love G1, but there's something about a realistic-looking G1 Prime. It just takes the cake for me personally. By no means do you have to agree with me, that's just my opinion, but this guy being in this super vibrant, punchy purple color, and this sort of weird, iridescent, pearlescent type of blue, it just works for me. It looks beautiful. The gold on the windows as well adds a nice sort of breakup of the colors, and I love the fact that they went ahead and sculpted in the crack on the windshield there, something they didn't have to do, and we'll touch on that a little bit more in just a second. Overall though, I am absolutely in love with the way this guy looks. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. And here we have him up close and personal, and I have to say, something about the color scheme on this guy just works for me. I'm loving the muted tones of the blue, and of course the super punchy metallic vibrant purple. It looks absolutely fantastic, and of course the really nice punchy red for the eyes as well. This thing is a feast for the eyes, and I love it. Now, like I said in the intro of this video, this is going to be a more condensed review. Technically, we've already seen pretty much all of this stuff. It's just the color scheme that's new. If you want to see a proper in-depth review of this mold, go ahead and check out the Nemesis Prime or the Optimus Prime reviews. They'll be up in the top right-hand corner of this video. That will cover articulation and, as I said, go into a lot more detail on the mold itself. Let's take a look at the head sculpt. It is once again identical, but the paint applications are drastically different. It's a completely different shade of blue. You can see a nice chipping around the edges there. In fact, the entire thing has a subtle level of wear and tear all throughout. Is it more so than what we've seen with the other two versions? I'm kind of thinking it might be a little bit more war-torn, especially, of course, on this chest plate. There's a hole in the window, and yes, that is sculpted. Initially, I thought that was just going to be paint, but no, it's properly sculpted in there, which is a nice touch, something they didn't have to do. They could have literally just done a decal over the top, but it's actually a hole in the window. That is absolutely fantastic. And of course, I do want to quickly make note of the purple. I know I've already said it looks beautiful, and it does, but there's like a multi-tone to it. It's a little bit of a lighter purple in certain areas, then it goes dark, and of course there is a black wash over the top. It just pops. You can see how the light is reflecting on it. It looks absolutely beautiful, and honestly, I'm so very glad I picked up this Shattered Glass Optimus Prime. It wasn't something that I was thinking about doing initially. I saw it and I thought, oh, do I not? I'm so very glad that I did. The shelf wouldn't have been complete without him. Fingers crossed I'm able to pick up that G1 colored Blitzwing, because honestly, I'm loving the color scheme of that guy as well. And if they do decide to do even more Seekers in the line, of course, based off that Blitzwing mold, then that guy's going to be a little bit essential. Now, I quickly want to make note of the cool aspects of this guy, so you don't have to go ahead and check out the previous video. Unfortunately, the little shoulder pad pieces do like to fall off, but they just clip back in place, but this is a really nice touch. You can see when you ratchet him forward, not only is that an absolutely enormous range of motion, but it reveals the spine, and that looks really, really good. Something that they didn't have to do. They could have just left a hole in there, but honestly, all of that additional sculpting and painting really works wonders for the entire piece. I love the way that looks, and of course, with these 3-0 pieces, especially in this deluxe scale line, they are extremely heavy. This guy is made pretty much entirely of die-cast on the inside. Of course, there is plastic over the top, but he is super chunky and super heavy. He feels incredibly premium, even more heavy in my personal opinion than some of the Hot Toys die-cast Iron Man figures, and if you have any of those, you know what I'm talking about. You can feel the premium here. It just feels absolutely awesome. Now, there is a bunch of little bits and pieces that are, of course, painted slightly differently in terms of the wheels. There's a little bit more of an orange wash to the wheels themselves. The silver also appears a little bit more orange, and some of the pistons, again, slightly more orange, even around the back of the feet, tucked in there, some orange little pistons, and I love how that comes across. It's a subtle pop of color that matches quite nicely to his little arrows here, of course, a staple for Optimus Prime. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have him standing pretty much next to his exact carbon copies of himself in different colors. Which one do I like the best? Obviously, I like the original the best, the classic red and blue. You can't beat it, but coming in at a very close second has to be this new Shattered Glass one. I love the black of the Nemesis Prime, don't get me wrong, but it hides a lot of the details, whereas this guy being in purple and this sort of nice pearlescent blue, and of course the gold on the windshield, it just brings another level of flair to the design, which we pretty much haven't seen except for in the original. I love the way he looks. He's now my second favorite, and I'm having a tough time deciding which one because I've only got room for the Nemesis Prime or the Shattered Glass one until we move into the next collection room. For now, one of them's going to have to go back in the box, and if you ask me, it's going to be Nemesis Prime. Just wrapping up on the 3-0 Shattered Glass version of Optimus Prime. Going into this review, I really didn't know what to expect in terms of the paint applications. It could have gone really badly. The purple could have been absolutely awful and flat and boring, and the blue could have been lifeless. But they didn't do that. They took what was already a fantastic mold. One of, as I said, my personal favorite, my personal favorite version of Optimus Prime of all time, and they put him into this really awesome, deep purple and metallic pearlescent blue paint finish. Of course, some newly sculpted pieces, or just one I should say, being the chest plate. They killed it. This thing looks beautiful. No matter where you have him, he's pretty much gonna steal the show. Now, the tricky part comes down to deciding between this guy and the Nemesis Prime, because the Nemesis Prime's a little bit easier to get your hands on compared to this guy. They're both incredibly difficult, don't get me wrong, but this guy might just be a little bit easier if Sideshow gets a second batch if he comes off waitlist, which sometimes their products do. This guy is absolutely worth picking up if you can. If you can't and you're still looking for an evil version of Optimus and you can get your hands on the Nemesis one, that one's great too. But for me personally, the purple and the blue takes the cake. There is just so much more to see here because the black just washes out detail. This purple brings it to life, and I love the way they've done it. Now, as I said, I picked up mine from Sideshow, but unfortunately they are sold out now. Fingers crossed they do bring out a second wave, but who knows if that's going to happen. Your best bet, if you really have to have him right now, would probably be going through eBay. Unfortunately, the prices will be significantly higher, but if you have to have him, it's kind of your only option. Now also, if you are heading down to the description, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.